Alright, I am back with another Outriders video. It's been a little while since I've talked about the game, but I have been playing it a good amount. Probably a little more than Destiny these days, actually. Just because I still have stuff to kind of actively farm for there, and it has undergone a number of patches that make farming a lot better than it used to. So I thought maybe it was time to do kind of a little state of the game type updates after the last two updates and kind of where the game is at now. We just had a patch this week, which was not really like a balance patch, and they didn't like increase drop rates or anything again. Sorry, I am sweating. I just finished showering, and it was after my workout, and it was too hot, and now I am still sweating. So there we go. So I have been playing it after the patch so far, and I'll just kind of go through what that changed, and I think it did change kind of everything it set out to. One of the first fixes was that they were trying to fix up the Xbox sign-in issues where it would take forever to sign in on Xbox. And as you can see, I have a demonstration handy right here to show kind of what that has been changed to. And they did fix it. They said they might not have totally fixed it, and yet it is infinitely better than it was before, and it's up. That would have taken at least another 60 seconds, if not like 2 minutes under the old system. I have no idea why Xbox specifically has been plagued by this, but this does seem to have finally rectified that issue, so that's good. Other changes as of this patch, they changed the AFK system, so if you have been AFK in camp for more than 2 minutes, or I think in a menu for more than 2 minutes, you will be taken out of the matchmaking pool. That is the kind of thing that would have been nice to have 3 months ago when the game launched, because this has been absolutely one of the most pervasive issues in the endgame. So this is like, I would say it's like 80% fixed, where sometimes you'll still kind of like get matched into people with camp that aren't doing much, or maybe they're active, but they're still just running around at vendors and stuff. Part of that is because they have not fixed the system where it just like automatically opens your matchmaking settings to open, even if you're just trying to like log in and like mess around with your gear. So people will get matched into people's games who like don't actually want to run expeditions. So that still happens sometimes, and yet you will no longer get all that many cases of people who have literally clearly just been AFK forever, and the game just hasn't booted them out and has kept them in the matchmaking pool with their settings open. So you do not really run into that anymore, and I have found it to be a much easier time to get into games than it used to. So that is kind of the other major piece of Outriders' problems with Endgame Expeditions. The first problem was the drop rates, and then the other problem was so many AFK people and it just being like so impossible to get into games. Another thing they changed as of this patch is broodmothers now, they're invisible ground fire that would just kind of kill you even though you couldn't see it. It is now more visible. I wouldn't say it's like crazy visible, but it is definitely more visible than it was. And so that is definitely a noticeable change. So, I mean, the AFK thing is a lot more significant than you might imagine, and that has kind of really transformed the endgame experience for me especially, where it's so much easier to find games now. And what I have found kind of playing now, like the state of the game at the moment is the people that are left for the most part, especially at like higher end expeditions, like pretty much know what they're doing. So it's a lot harder to get in games with people that are just like totally useless and like that you just have to hard carry through everything. And what I found is a lot of people this late in the game like have their gear sets. They're still farming to refine them or to test them or whatever, but they have their sets, like they know what they're doing. They are contributing in a meaningful way, I would say, 70% of the time. And like every so often you're going to get paired with people that are just not at the same level, and then you end up carry them a little bit. But I have seen less kind of hard coasting than I used to, and a lot more kind of really built up players this late in the game. So that too makes expeditions more fun because, I used to complain about gold timers all the time and how it's a DPS rush, and it is still a DPS rush, and that's not ideal. And yet, it's gotten to the point where hitting those gold timers on most expeditions, I would say Boomtown is the only one that keeps getting silvered by a lot of people who aren't like fully optimized. But most other ones, it's fairly easy to get gold now on tier 15. So that's better than it used to be. And that comes with a 50% drop rate now. The drop rate increase and the anti-dupe protection, which is not, that's like a bad name for it because it doesn't like prevent dupes. It just gives you like a fractionally better chance at maybe getting something you don't have. But between those two things, I have gotten pretty much the one set I have been looking for on all 4 classes that is able to carry tier 15 by itself. One of the current problems is that there are still really only a handful of builds or sets that are like the builds for the class. I would say, there's maybe like one firepower trickster build, one anomaly trickster build, and everything else is like not good. They are buffing skills in the future, and then some classes, like, I don't think there really is that viable of a firepower build for Devastator. Like, there is one you can with one specific set, but it's still not great. Firepower for Pyromancer is not really a thing for the most part. And then there is anomaly stuff for, I'd say Technomancer is probably the most diverse now, where you can have like scrap mine builds, you can have triple turret builds, and then the best build is still kind of the toxic firepower build that you've seen probably the most common. But I'd say that has probably the most diverse set of things you can do right now. But there's clearly still a lot of work to be done in terms of build diversity, and that is something they said they are addressing in future patches. It's just that they wanted to kind of do everything all at the same time, which I understand. But I still think builds are too reliant on a few very specific mods. Like the whole concept of guns in the game has sort of been reduced to you have, for Anomaly, you have Moaning Winds, which gives you just ridiculous damage on reload for like AoE explosions, or you have Fortress on everything, which just increases all of your damage by like 40%. Or you have, what's another one? The one, Dark Sacrifice, where you sacrifice half your health for 75% more weapon damage. Like, there are very few builds that don't revolve around these, so like this is where I think like maybe those should be nerfed a little bit. Like, I don't know if you can buff literally every other mod in the game to keep up with those, and some others can be viable, but I don't think any are as viable as that selection. So that's kind of a build diversity problem. I'd say there's more diversity in the mods, but for my mind, I think they need to buff certain skills in certain classes, but importantly, I think they need to buff set bonuses on a lot of classes. Set bonuses are generally, like, I would say bad like 3/4 of the time. Pretty much each class only has one set that has a set bonus like that's worth anything, and some of them are like hilariously stupid. Like, okay, the Trickster has one that I think it's a Chrono suit, where it's like the coolest looking outfit in the game, and yet the bonus is like every time you rewind time, you'll get your ammo back, which is not good. But besides that, there's a single mod on one of the other set items that gives you full ammo every time you do your Hunt the Prey teleport, which is like, that is one mod that can go on any build. That is not a set bonus. That is outright better than the other set bonus. So like, I don't think they have balanced the set bonuses very well, and some of them are just far more useless than others. Some of the ones that seem bad right now could be better if they buff certain skills, like if they buff like Boulder Dash on Devastator, that could make that set a lot better or something like that. But right now it's like the Yukari set, the one Anomaly set on Devastator for bleed damage, and then I don't think my Technomancer even has a set. You can do the cold snap set, but it's not really necessary. And then Trickster, I don't even think I have a full set on my Trickster. I think all the Trickster sets are bad except for maybe the Anomaly one that gives you more like blade damage and stuff. But right now, my current goal is like, now that I have kind of one set down with everything, I'm trying to get at least one full copy of each set on all 4 classes. Not because all the sets, as I said, are good right now, but I think we're going to be seeing some buffs pretty soon here that could create some interesting alternate builds instead of just the ones I have that I'm totally destroying with now. And here we're getting into kind of like the Diablo philosophy of like, well, you've beaten the game, you have like the best build, what is there to do? And I get that, but it's fun to make alternate builds and see what else you can do with different types of things rather than just your one overpowered build, steamrolling everything. So that is for me still kind of a reason to play, because it's easier to matchmake now, drop rates are better now. So I'm having a much better time farming expeditions now than I have at any point in the past. It's just a shame it took 3 months to get here. So my advice is yes, I do think it is a good time to jump into it now. I guess you could wait for the next patch when they're going to buff a lot of skills, which will probably be in the next week or two, if I had to guess. They're very communicative about what's coming and when. They're probably one of the most transparent developers I've ever seen in terms of their process. Even in the live service sector, you kind of have to be transparent to survive and to not have your fan base rebel against you. But I think People Can Fly has done a above and beyond job of kind of communicating its intentions and plans for the game. The only thing it doesn't have is any announcements of future content, because we are still stuck in this, it's not really a live service philosophy. But I think the game has done well enough where they probably have gotten DLC greenlit behind the scenes, and I would expect to see that at some point in the future. But this does not seem like a game that's going to transform into a full live service with seasons and frequent content updates or anything. But I think we'll probably get an expansion at some point. It's a topic for another day. But so that's kind of where we are right now. I think it is in a very good place to farm and kind of build yourself up. If you have any questions about how to gear up or build or whatever, I guess you can ask them in the comments, and I'll try and answer as best I can. Maybe I'll do a whole separate video on that at some other point. I don't know how popular my Outriders videos are going to be anymore this late into the game, as I'm pretty sure I'm like one of the only people still talking about it. But it's a game I'm keeping up with and playing, and I'm juggling it into my Destiny, Genshin, Avengers, whatever rotation I'm usually on. Avengers, I might have something to talk about next week or the week after, because they're finally bringing in kind of Endgame Omega mission content to that, so we'll see what happens there. I'm slightly skeptical about how that's going to go, but I guess we'll see. But anyway, thanks for watching these Outriders updates, and yeah, if you have questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.